Hi, welcome to Inspire Code Consulting. Today we will be learning how to code ICD-10 external cost coding. This will be in chapter 20 of your ICD-10 CM book, and it would explain how to actually code external cost codes. So let's get started. Of course, this is your all rights reserved for us. If you don't have permission, please get permission in order to record this. The objectives: identifying main terms, understanding main terms, locating main terms, why we use main terms, coding main terms. So basically, we are going to learn how to put all of this together as it relates to external cost coding. So chapter 20, you will find chapter 20 in your guidelines in your ICD-10 CM book. This is external causes of morbidity. These codes capture how the injury or health condition happened, the intent, the place where the event occurred, and the activity of the patient at the time of the event and the person's status. Please be mindful, there is only one part in your ICD-10 book where you will actually find this, and this will be your external causes index. This is going to be right after your alphabetical index in your ICD-10 CM book. General external cost coding guidelines. So external codes may be used with any code. External cost codes used for the length of treatment, and assign as many external cost codes as necessary to tell the story. So basically, these codes is going to tell the story of how the injury actually happened. External cost codes can never be a principal diagnosis. They're always secondary codes. And just so that you are mindful or you know exactly what I mean by that, that means a motor vehicle accident. A doctor cannot treat a motor vehicle accident. However, he can treat the injury that occurred from the motor vehicle accident. So that's why these codes will never be primary. They'll never be principal diagnoses. Now, just a little tip, combination external cost codes, of course, we have those in the fall section, which result in striking against an object. So please be mindful, because sometimes when you fall, you can fall on the concrete and hit your head on a rock. This would be fall, which result in striking against an object. So place of occurrence. These codes identify the location of the patient at the time of the injury or other condition. This is assigned only one time. So normally when we are getting these type of injuries and we have to tell the story of how it happens, this is usually where you'll code these encounters. They'll come from the emergency room. So this is a person who's gone to the emergency room and this has happened to them. How this happened: I was in a motor vehicle accident. So this is where you'll get all of your accident codes from. So those of you who are interested in coding emergency room or coding ER or whatever, this would be like the start of how to code this particular area. Activity codes. These describe the activities of the patient at the time of the injury. And of course, this can only be used, coded one time as well. Here's the thing: once you tell the story, you only have to tell the story one time, and then you go into treatment of the actual injury. The only time you would probably actually code like a fall or motor vehicle accident is maybe if this person is going into surgery. That will be the only other time. Other than that, this will never be coded again, only the very first time when it happened. So putting it all together. So there are 4 questions you want to ask yourself. What is the injury? Is it a fracture? Is it a sprain? Is it a laceration? Is it whiplash? Just a couple things, just injuries, back pain or a head injury. What are the injuries? What is the injury? And to that, now this is where you tell the story of how the injury happened. So your next question would be, how did the injury occur? Did they fall? Did they have a motor vehicle accident? Or did they go bike riding? Did they go skiing? It's just, these are your W codes, and these are just some things on how different injuries can occur. Then once you tell how the injury occurred, now you want to tell where they were. So this will be your place of occurrence codes, which will be more than likely your Y codes. And then once you tell where they were, then you want to know, what were they doing? What was the actual activity this person was doing when this injury occurred? And of course, this would be the Y codes as well. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little tip here, right? So usually your injury codes, they start with an S. S is in Sam. Most of them begin with an S. And I just want you to kind of pay attention to this here, because if you look at the reason why I have the W codes and the Y codes, it kind of goes in alphabetical order. It'll be the S codes, the W codes, and then the Y codes. So just a little bit of tip, right? So here's another tip. When you are in your ICD-10 CM coding book, when you are in the external cause index area, you want to highlight what I have in bold, activity. This also means transport, okay? And you want to highlight place of occurrence. And you also want to highlight fall. So that way, when you go to those areas, you know exactly where they are, and you're able to just kind of go to it, and then you can go and find the specific place of occurrence or the specific activity, or in this particular case here, fall. So we want to code to the highest specificity. So with that being said, you want to make sure you have every detail. So in your book, when you go to fall, there are different types of ways that you can fall. I know you're probably saying in your head, a fall is a fall. It is. However, it can happen different ways. So if I were you, just another tip, I will go in your book and under fall, highlight the following: due to or from. So you can fall due to something, or you can fall from something. You can fall off of something. You can fall out of something or fall in something. You can fall on something, you can fall into something, and you can fall involving something. So just be mindful of all of those different types of falls. Now, while alpine skiing in Utah, the patient fell and suffered a stress fracture of the right femur. So what we want to do here is we want to know, what is the injury? The injury is the stress fracture of the right femur. Okay, where were they? You want to know where were they? You want to know where the place of occurrence was, and you want to know the activity. So you can tell the story of how they got this stress fracture. So let's see. So the stress fracture, the right femur, that is what the doctor can actually treat. He can treat this. He cannot treat these, so they will never be primary. So he can treat this stress fracture. However, when you go into the ER or if you go into any doctor's offices, you always want to tell them what's going on with you and how it happened, how long ago, and all of that. So in this particular case, we're going to ask ourselves those questions that I just briefly showed you or whatever. So here, this stress fracture happened because this patient was on a skiing accident. This is considered other specified sports and athletic area, which is the place of occurrence. So when you have a code like this, it may not be specific to maybe a place of occurrence or maybe specific to a condition or disease. So if it's other, you're still explaining the story because it was something else. Also, other individual sport. So just like this is an activity, other individual sport, an individual sport would be track, okay? They may have a code for track, however, they may not have they don't have a code for this skiing activity. So you would have other individual sport. Number 2, a pedestrian hit by a car while walking in the parking lot at the shopping center was taken to the emergency department. Now, in this particular scenario, we don't have the injury, but we can tell what happened to the actual patient. So it was a pedestrian who was walking, and he was hit by a car while he was in a parking lot at a shopping center. So even though this is partial story, I want you to look at this so that you can see how telling a story, how you can bring it all together. So even though, like I said, this is partial, we can add more to this and we can find out what the injury is. But in this particular case, we would have to add more to get the injury. However, this is how we're telling the story of how the injury occurred. So he was a pedestrian, which you see here. Of course, if he got hit by a car while walking, that means he's on foot, and he got injured in collision with a car. He was hit by a car, right? His activity, he was walking. And then where was he? He was in the parking lot at a shopping center. So parking lot would be his place of occurrence. So just be mindful when you're coding this area, you want to tell the story. Even though the injury goes first, now we're telling the story of the injury. And last but not least, I wanted to put one on here so we can kind of get into a bigger scenario here. So a fireman suffered a 3rd-degree burn of his upper back involving 8% total body surface area. A 2nd-degree burn of the neck involving 2% total body surface area. And a 3rd-degree burn of the right forearm involving 4% total body surface area, battling a house fire. He was in the house containing the fire when the burns occurred. He was taken to the hospital emergency department for treatment. Now, FYI, we want to make sure we code to the highest specificity, and we want to place them in correct order so that we know which codes go first. Now, firsthand out of this here, we know that the burns go first. However, there are 1st-degree burns, there are 2nd-degree burns, and there are 3rd-degree burns. The most severest burns are 3rd degrees. So that means when we are coding to the highest specificity, the 3rd-degree burns are going to go first. If this scenario had a 2nd and 1st-degree burn, then it would be the 2nd-degree burns that will go first. So it just depends on your scenario. So for this particular scenario, we only have 3rd degree and 2nd degree. And so I know you're probably asking, well, we do have third degree burns, but we have two. We have one of the upper back that involves 8% total, and then we have a third degree burn of the right forearm, which involves 4%. Well, we want to what? Code to the highest specificity. So with that being said, this 8% of the upper back will be the primary code because the forearm, the right forearm, is only 4%. And then last but not least, our second degree burn will be the neck, which is 2%. And then we tell the story of how it happened. So let's check it out. So here you have your burn of your third degree of the upper back. Remember I said that was 8%. And then you have your right forearm, which was 4%. And then you have your second degree of the neck, which was 2%. Now in burns, just be mindful every time you code burns, you will always have what you see in your book. And it has TBSA, and that stands for total body surface area. And how we obtain the total body surface area, this code is a combination code because it has two parts. The first part is burns involving 10 to 19% of the body surface. Well, this one here is very specific to this scenario. However, if it was more, you will see other code. You will see other codes with 10 to 19% third degree burns. So let's just break this combination code down. This first part says burns involving 10 to 19% of body surface area. This means what is the total body surface area of all the burns put together that this patient have? So the way we do that, we just add the percentages. So 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14%. So that 14% falls right in between 10 to 19%. With the second part of your code, 10 to 19% of third degree burns, only third degree, right? So this is your most severest. So we have 8% third degree of the upper back plus 4% of the right forearm would be 12%. So basically you have, this patient has 14% total body surface area with 12% of that being third degree burns. So that's how we code the burns. I also have another video. You can go on my YouTube page. You'll see the other video of coding burns and how we use how we use the 9%, how we code the burn. So just go to that video so you can see that, and it'll kind of give you an idea of what and how to code when you don't have these percentages. So now that we have come across our burns, which is our injuries, and all of this here can be treated by the actual provider, let's tell the story of how it happened. This person was exposed to flames in an uncontrolled fire in building or structure, initial encounter, and then the unspecified place in a single family house as a place of occurrence. And the reason why it's unspecified place, it did say a house. It didn't say what kind of a house. So that's why we went to unspecified place here. If any one of you have any questions, please contact Inspired Code Consulting. If you are interested in taking a self-paced online medical coding course, please visit my website. And if you just want to send me an email regarding any questions, comments, or concerns that you have, you can send me an email, or you can give me a call between the business hours of 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. Monday through Friday for consultations. Thank you. I would appreciate if you like the video and if you share the video. And if you want, like I said, any comments, questions, or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.